Hey, listen. Um, someone asked me this question. I wanted to bring it to you guys and talk about it. Why are relationships so hard? Like, why is it so difficult to have quality relationship and we not fight all the time? There's not a lot of stress. We don't have walls up where, I'm being distant and you're not doing what I ask. Like, what's the issue? Well, I want to run these few things down to you. And this is not everything, but these are some of the main things that I believe makes relationships hard. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to think about it, to see where you fit, so you can begin to make changes. Right? I think one of the main reasons that relationships are difficult is because we show up to relationships and we are not effective communicators. Now, when you ask the average person, hey, what makes a relationship work? A lot of times people will say communication. But I'm not really talking about communication just for the sake of communication. If you can't communicate, you can't resolve conflict. So a lot of people think, well, the relationship is bad because we can't resolve conflict. That's true. But the reason you can't resolve conflict is because the way you communicate. If you can't communicate effectively, you won't be able to effectively resolve conflict, because your marriage or relationship does not go sideways because of what happens in the relationship. It goes sideways because of how you handle or mishandle what happens. So here's what I mean about we don't communicate well. So I'm talking to a couple earlier today, and so I'm helping them work through an issue. But when the wife says what she says to the husband, she don't recognize that the information she's sharing is good information. But the way she's sharing it is insightful, meaning it's an instigator. It feels like an attack. So you got to get to the place to where you know how to communicate, and your words, because she didn't mean any harm, but he's not in her head. When he heard it, he was about to go somewhere else until I caught it, said, hold on. I don't think she meant it the way she said it or the way you may have heard it. And so I had her rephrase it. And then he was like, oh, okay, I got it. So in general, you got to do better at the way you communicate. And you got to understand that you and your partner have different internal dictionaries, right? So you guys don't understand the same things the same way. You may think you do. Like, you guys don't even have the same idea of what marriage is. And that's okay, but you want to find out what they think marriage is so that you guys can put these two ideas together and build something for you. Another reason, so communication, right? But another reason that relationships are difficult is because people have a hard time accepting their not accepting their reality. I was going to say accepting their responsibility, but accepting their reality. What do I mean by that? So most of the times when we get married, we are marrying more of our idea than our reality. See, when you come to marriage, you already have an idea of what your partner, what a husband is or what a wife is, right? And so you put that on them, and you don't even know it. It's not intentional, but you have a framework of what a spouse looks like. When I say looks like, I don't mean physically, but I'm saying how they operate, right? And then when you start interacting with your partner in the marriage, it's like, man, husbands don't do that. Wives don't do that, but they do. You are too married to your idea that you cannot accept your reality. And that's going to cause problems because y'all don't think alike. Your partner was not raised to be the spouse that you need. They were not raised that way, right? So they didn't just show up on the planet today. They had a whole life before you showed up. And so how they've been doing life before you, whether it was right or wrong, it's what they learned. So when they come to the relationship, they don't automatically change just like you didn't. And the problem is sometimes people think that the way they think relationships or marriage should go, if their mindset they think aligns with society and their partner doesn't, they use that as validation to say, hey, I'm right. And then they'll say things like, marriage don't work like, you're not supposed to do that in marriage. And that's not what a husband does, right? Okay, even if it's not what a husband does, did you choose the husband that don't do that, or that will do that, or that don't act that way, or will act that way? Who did you choose? You have to divorce your idea so you can stay married to your reality. If not, you're gonna struggle. And then another thing, so not being married to your idea and accepting your reality, because that's so hard, what that leads us to do is control. Control is going to cause you to suffer in your marriage, in your relationship. Control. So remember this: love and control cannot thrive at the same. You can't walk in love while under control. Love needs liberty to thrive. You have to have the freedom, or your partner has to have the freedom to say no to you. They have to have the freedom to choose you. You can't make them be who you want them to be. Again, they were not created in your image. So when you try to control them, you are injuring the relationship. And I see that a lot. So people will, they get upset because their partner is not acting the way they want them to act, the way they think a spouse should be. And instead of coming to them and trying to find out, hey, why you operate this way? No, they come at them angry, saying that you're wrong. So then the other partner, even if they are wrong, they come back at you because why? It's an attack. If you attack me, I'm going to attack you back. Think about it. If you're in your house, if somebody breaks into your house, right, and they're in there to do harm, right? But if you get the jump on them and you start beating them up, what you think they're going to do? They just going, oh, you caught me. I shouldn't have been in here. I shouldn't have been breaking in your house. You can beat me up. No, they're going to fight you back. Why? That's just a natural thing. Even if I'm wrong, if you're attacking me, I'm going to fight you back. Right? So, and that kind of goes back to the communication, because we don't know how to ask questions. We don't know how to ask questions for clarity. When we do ask questions, we ask questions out of sarcasm. Didn't I cook last week? I'll never do nothing for you. Those are not questions meant to be asked. Those are questions to make a point. You trying to make a point, you're really trying to make a butthole out of your partner. Don't do that. And then what that ultimately leads to pride. Pride, as a matter of fact, I shouldn't say it leads to pride, because pride is the undertone of all of this. At the root of every divorce, 100% of divorces is pride. It's at the root. Here's what pride is. So love is about the person that you're loving, but pride is about you. Pride is about my needs, my wants, my hurts, my desires, right? You cannot walk in love and pride at the same time. And when everything is about me, you're going to struggle in relationships. And the thing is, when you're walking in pride, most of the time you don't know it, because pride will dress itself up to look like righteousness. So you think you're going the right way. By the time you find out you're going the wrong way, destruction done showed up. And then you got to remember, I said this earlier, your partner had a life before they met you, right? So communication, control, they had a life before you. Let me put these three together, and pride is in there too. Let me give you a scenario. Before your partner met you, let's say when they was a kid, they learned this, and for 35 years they've been single. So when they eat in the privacy of their home, they eat rice with their fingers and corn. They eat rice and corn. They pick it up and they eat it with their hands. Is that wrong? Who determines that it's wrong? If God don't say it's wrong, then how is it wrong? Because if you determine what's right and wrong, then you have the upper hand, right? So that's not something that's wrong. That's just something you don't prefer. So you going hard on them because they eating with their hands, as opposed to you trying to understand why they eat with their hands. And then if they don't change that, learning to accept and love them anyway. Why? Because that's the person you chose. You're going to suffer. Let them eat with their hands. Now, when I say let them eat with their hands, I understand that means you got to grow, but you want them to grow. Why can't you grow? You got to learn to accept the things that you don't like. Why? Because that came in the package that you bought, or the package that you chose. Some folk do feel like they bought their spouse, but that's a different story. But it came in the package that you chose. You can't send it back. You can't send the bad stuff back without sending the good stuff back. So accept them, right? Get out of pride, learn to communicate, and realize they had a life before you. You probably don't have an evil spouse, right? They don't have a bad heart. So the bad things that you've seen them do that you've labeled bad, they're doing life the way they've learned how to do it. And I'm not saying that it's right and just let it go, but I'm saying the way you handle it. You got to be careful, because while you are trying to denounce their behavior, you are actually making your partner feel like they are not good enough, like they don't matter. And that's probably not your intent. But if you don't know how to communicate, how you going to get that message across? Okay. So I just wanted to share that real quick. There's some reasons why relationships are hard. And I want y'all to do better, because some of the reasons that we fighting about relationships, it's like you just need a little bit of maturity. Just grow up a little bit. Get outside of yourself. Embrace some humility and love from an authentic place. Okay? All right. Y'all take care.